Peace and blessings. My name is Emmanuel. My YouTube channel is Manners and Respect. Today we're speaking with Brother Muhammed. I want to thank the brother for allowing us to come inside of his beautiful home and have an open and honest discussion about the life and times of Dr. Khallid Muhammad. Also, I want to thank the videographer, whose name is VA Fonz.
Yes,
I really appreciate the brother for filming this great and wonderful event. You can reach VA Fonz at Freeman Entertainment and Global Marketing. Thank you. Blessings, people. Today we're going to speak with Brother Michael J. Muhammad on the life and times of the great and wonderful teacher, master teacher, Dr. Khallid Muhammad. Brother, I'm so glad and wonderful to finally get to speak with you on the life and times of the brother Dr. Khallid Muhammad. I want to get right into it. I don't want to waste time. Can you speak a little bit about, Dr. Khallid Muhammad's mission and his purpose and his goals? What was his aim?
Yeah, first of all, brother, let me thank you. Thank you for the outreach and willingness to conduct this conversation. This is marking the 20th anniversary of Khalid Muhammad's passing, February 17th of this year, and we are now in the recognition of his birth anniversary, would have been January 12th. And so I thank you for this. I've been silent for now 20 years on the subject of Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I've not spoken publicly. I've not spoken really at length privately to too many people because of the sacredness of the subject and the principal individual of the subject to me and to black people's struggle. So I thank you for this opportunity. Khalid Abdul Muhammad's mission, impact, and what he means to us as a people. His mission was simple, and he often shared that mission: to teach and to save, teach and reach that which was lost. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was as you said, master teacher, master debater, master organizer, a master in respect of good terms, manipulator of circumstances to produce the ultimate effect that he desired. And so from a very young age, the man who became Khalid Abdul Muhammad engaged himself in study and preparation to serve the greater cause of the liberation and salvation, as he would say, of the black nation. So his meaning to black people, the world is yet to know, because while we had him for a period of time of 53 years amongst us, and those of us who had time to spend with him in shorter, the reality is that the weight of Khalid Abdul Muhammad is just beginning to be known, because the generations to which he preached are now beginning to produce children and grandchildren. And so the fruition of the spirit and the fire that Khalid preached is now being manifest in the generations that are in front of us. So it is almost to say that he was like the scripture says of that man Jesus, born out of due season. that he would sow seeds and others would reap the harvest. So Khalid Abdul Muhammad's meaning to black people is the meaning of one who would sacrifice his life, his one opportunity to grace God's green earth in the form of that man. He gave it in service to black people so that we would have an opportunity to know that we had an enemy that was an open enemy, and we did not have to cower, and we did not have to buck and bend and bow at his presence, at the mention of white man, or we did not have to run from the action of standing up for our liberation in this day and time. And so Khalid Muhammad means to black people liberation. He means the spirit of war, the spirit of liberation.
I've noticed that in recent times there's been a resurgence of interest in Dr. Khalid Muhammad and his mission and his works. Many people have done small exposés on, and many have been in defense of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. You had brothers like Roland Martin who've come out and said some things.
He's an idiot.
Exactly. He said some negative things about.
He's not just an
I don't
idiot.
believe it. I don't believe
First of all, he's a liar.
Yeah, I don't believe
and an idiot.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
You know, not to be disparaging,
Right.
but to even invoke the thought that you could
I don't believe it.
punk Khalid Muhammad
It's ridiculous.
because you have some Texas affiliation that Khalid would give you the indifference of allowing you to speak to him in an indignant manner when his own brothers and the sisters that he worked with on a daily and a consistent basis would not have that opportunity except they have that level of respect exchange. So Roland Martin is not only an idiot,
That's right.
but he's an idiot and a liar.
That's right. I agree totally. And you had some other people that have been speaking about the brother in recent times. You had General Seti. You had Sister Vicky Dillard, who did a nice piece on the brother defending him against Roland Martin as well. Now, I just want to get into, so that we can get a full view of the man, I want to talk a little bit as far as what you know about his family, you know, his family life and early years. Just touch on that a little bit, you know.
Well, of course, now that Khalid Muhammad has passed and the record is written, there's the obituary that we had prepared when he passed for his, there's the obituary that we had prepared when he passed. And so much of his life can be found there. And I don't want to be, want to go into the rehashing of the individual aspects of his life.
Okay.
But he was a young man who was raised by his aunt in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And he, at a very early age, had the desire, as I said before, to serve his people, but also to serve his people from the perspective of ministry. His first interest was as a Methodist minister, where he would preach to the cars, as he would say, passing by on the street from the porch. And so his interest was always in oratory, his interest was always in service, his interest was always in being before the people, and that was infused further by his strong tie with his aunt, who raised him, Miss Lottie Moore. And from that perspective, he had sisters and brothers that he interacted with. He had a mother. His mother passed away about, I believe, 17 years earlier than he did in the month of February. But his children, David, Kalfani, and Farah, as he is now known, mostly of his biological children, he loved immensely. He married several times, mostly in what would be known now as civil ceremonies, because he did not respect the white man's law. And so going down to the courthouse to get a license and go through that process was not necessarily what Khalid Muhammad was involved in. But when it came to family, he extended himself to many because his work engulfed the globe. And so he was embraced by many, and he embraced many, and his family was very vast. But when it came to his birth family, the Moore and Van family, the unfortunate reality is that family's relationship with Butch, as they would call him, suffered because of his commitment to the liberation struggle of black people.
And that seems to be a common theme amongst most of our revolutionaries and scholars, that it seems like a very lonely tribe when you're endeavoring to awaken the consciousness of the people. It seems like, you know, as I look at the stories of many different people, it just seems so very lonely. So I wonder how he may have been affected personally by, you know, that type of thing.
Extremely adversely. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was a very private man. And for people to make videos and conversations and dialogues about him because they spent time with him is general to what the public does. But to say that you knew him would have to fall from the lips of a very few, because Khalid was very, very personal, and he was very private with his family and with various aspects of his life, but he was most private about his emotions, except that he would communicate his emotions in the form of vitriolic rhetoric directed at a particular issue or entity. But at the end of the day, he was a human being who suffered from the same frailties and sufferings that we all have. The difference is because his persona and his image was that of a stone, a black stone, like out of Kaaba. Because he was like a black stone, you know, there's very little change to the image of the stone, so he continued that stone face image through all of his trials and tribulations. But I can recall roughly about 30 days or so prior to him passing, having a conversation with him. He was in the store looking at paint samples with his then wife, Nefertari, and he had ambush. But when we spoke by phone, the conversation went to his mindset, which he was very rare to share outside of certain people, but I had that relationship.
And I wanted not to cut you, but I wanted to talk about how it was that you came to interact with your brother. Okay.
But when it came to his mindset, he said to me in this conversation, sometimes, brother, I just feel like giving up. This is less than 30 days before he died. Sometimes I feel like just giving up and going to a black event every once in a while with my family. He said, last night, my son Kalfani and I were watching a documentary on A&E with Minister Farrakhan, and I saw myself all throughout that documentary, brother. He said, my place in history is secure. He said, but it's like the story of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad hearing the voice of Master Fard Muhammad in the wheels of the train. Did you think you would be left alone saying you believe and not be tried when those before you had been tried? This is Khalid's words. And he said, so we just get back to work. He said, but you all, meaning black people, kill good leadership.
Yes.
And these were his words, and other words in that conversation. But I specifically focused on the fact that he was tired in his spirit, he was tired in his mind, he was tired in his body. And the level of tired that Khalid was only manifested in the late hours of February 11th, early hours of February 12th, 2001, and that is when he suffered from what was diagnosed by his doctors and determined in his autopsy to be a cerebral hemorrhage, which was a 4-inch burst in the frontal lobe of his brain.
Wow. I wanna backtrack a little bit and talk about some of the struggles and some of the enemies that he dealt with throughout the years. For instance, I happen to know that he was condemned by Congress and things of that nature.
The only citizen in the history of the United States of America to include the white supremacist president, who is the most vitriolic and hateful speech-oriented person to ever have a platform in the United States of America. Khalid Muhammad is on record as the only person having been condemned by both joint houses of Congress.
Wow.
And he took it as a badge of goddamn honor.
Oh, yeah, he said that, yeah. He definitely said that. He definitely said that. And I want to get into also, because a lot of people are interested in the separation between himself and the Nation of Islam. There was a speech that he gave at King College that
1993, King College speech, right, New Jersey.
And
the infamous.
The infamous, yeah. And we know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
He is honorable.
That's right, that's right. And I wanted to make that point known.
He is
so
that.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came out with, for lack of a better word, I want to say some scathing remarks. Condemnation about
of his student.
Right. True.
His son.
Right. And a lot of people were
his follower.
Did not really
the
understand.
Man who accepted his leadership.
Right.
Right.
A lot of people did not understand. I don't know if maybe the context in which he admonished the brother. They didn't see what it was that the brother spoke about at King College that appeared to upset the minister so much that he actually set him down, you know. So we want to kind of revisit those events and talk about, you know, what happened, you know, basically what happened. As far as...
Have you ever spent any time at university or college level education?
No, I have not.
But you have spent time in the classroom.
That's right.
Don't worry about it because I haven't either. But I'm saying that to say, if you show up to class as a student and you already know what the teacher knows, then why are you there and why is the teacher there? See, this is a wasted process.
Okay.
You see? Student-teacher.
Right.
If the student can supersede the knowledge of the teacher when the teacher has yet to complete the lesson, then there is no need for two student teachers. Now, I say that to say this. Minister Farrakhan's condemnation of Khalid Muhammad, though Khalid Abdul Muhammad belongs to the greater black population, came as a leader to a follower in a militarized structural organization and the violation of orders that came directly from your superior officer. I don't care if you at McDonald's or any organization or body where you buck the chain of command, there are consequences for your actions. And I would venture to say that my teacher, Minister Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammed, knew the degree to which he was pushing the envelope with his teaching. And so I think that what happened with Brother Khalid, similar to what happened with Minister Malcolm, was that a interpersonal relationship became extremely public. And the level of interpersonal relationship that the student felt that they had to the teacher superseded the vision of the teacher for the need of that relationship, because ultimately the teacher is working from a goal and a vision, not on an individual.
Right.
And there will be many individuals that come along the way that work within the scope of that vision, as we have seen. It didn't start with Brother Khalid. It didn't stop with Brother Khalid. So if Brother Khalid became the be-all and of all in the center of the ring, while the minister Farrakhan is working to rebuild a work that he has a vision for, that he is only given part of to the student because he's still teaching, then why would outsiders then begin to judge the way that this corporate structure, remember, it's a military structure, it's an organizational structure, it's a corporate structure, it's a religious structure, it's a family structure. And so within the context of that structure, you know what the rules are. Malcolm, Minister Malcolm, knew the rules, knew the consequences, because he was the teacher and the trainer of the men. So he knew what come out of that type of approach to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as did Brother Khalid have some idea as a former minister on many levels and captain on many levels, all the way up to supreme captain, meaning the military authority of the nation at that time. Within the context of that, he knew there were consequences. So when the rest of the world got drawn into a situation that was really a structural and organizational situation, I think the exacerbation of that situation, though I was present, meaning as a young Muslim, coming up in the nation when that happened, I had no access to the upper room, so to speak. Right. It wouldn't be for 2 or 3 or 4 years before I would have that access to Brother Khalid, and then eventually and shortly thereafter to Minister Farrakhan. But even in just my analytical mind, then, not now, I'm not saying this absent Brother Khalid. Right. I'm saying this to Brother Khalid on our first meeting when I'm 18 years old. And I'll tell you what I said to him. I said, and so as we're going through this process, and you're talking about the minister's separation with Brother Khalid and that King Khalid speech and the condemnation that followed, if you're trying to build and you're making relationships for the building of a nation that exceeds the individual, and the individual does something that interferes with those relationships, then certainly the individual has to accept the responsibility of his individual actions and not put it on the conglomerate or the collective.
Right. And that's very important. I'm glad that we got to that understanding, because many people felt, and I'll be quite honest, many people felt that Farrakhan was wrong because they didn't understand the inner workings and what was really at play there. And so
to include those around Minister Khalid, because though I was not there at the King Khalid speech, shortly thereafter, by 1997, not only was I there, but I was there and in the thick of it. And so therefore, by the time we got to 98 and the Million Youth March, and that separation took complete effect, we understood that there was some actions on Khalid's part, but I was there, so I witnessed some of those who were considered elders and wise men and other soldiers within our struggle who gave bad advisory capacity to Brother Khalid.
Now, many people had one of the other contentions was many people, because we've all seen the video of Dr. Khallid Muhammad when he expressed the sentiment of wanting to realign himself with the Nation of Islam and with the Minister Farrakhan, and it was kind of, for me personally, it was kind of heartfelt. He talked about, you know, sitting in the front of many of the media lectures.
I witnessed it myself.
Right, and things of that nature, crying out for, you know, the minister to acknowledge him and that he wants to come back into the fold, which he said things about when he was in prison and he had written to the minister and didn't get...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he had written and didn't get responses and things of that nature. Why do you think, you know, and he also spoke about the Malcolm X situation, because he also said, I saw what happened between the Honorable...
30 years early.
Right. You see what I mean? With the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
He wanted to take the 6 of the 60s and turn it into the 9 of the 90s and turn the 6 of the 60s right side up, is what he said. He wanted to rectify and right the period between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and he and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. I unfortunately think that the amalgamation of the personality of Minister Malcolm X on Brother Khalid by his study and upbringing caused him to walk so firmly in the steps of Minister Malcolm that he ultimately made some of the same mistakes. And they said, well, who the hell do you think you are to say Minister Malcolm made mistakes, Minister Khalid made mistakes, and Farrakhan is right? Here's the thing. Minister Malcolm said history is best qualified to reward all research and study. Right. And if we can look at yesterday, then we're better qualified today. Well, if you look at what happened with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Malcolm, then you understand that that was a tremendous mistake in our people's history. And